introduce your team, please, and we'll move to receiving and discussing the Cornwall Park. Nice pictures. I enjoyed the maps. It was a bit hard to see which road was outside which one, but that wasn't on it. But
Wharetu nei tēnā koe, te pape takoto nei tēnā koe. E te koramatua, e te rangatira nui, tēnā koe. E ngā rangatira mā, tēnā koutou katoa. E mihi tonu ana kia koutou mō tō koutou awhi, mō tō koutou tautoko kia mātou, ki te tutaki kia koutou, ki te kōrero mō e pāna ki Cornwall Park. So, to you, Mayor, thank you very much for your time this morning, and to councillors for taking the time to welcome us today. So we are Cornwall Park. With me today is Fiona Mao, who's our communications manager, and Rupert George, who's recently joined as an associate trustee, and our chairman, Alistair Carruthers. Now, Alistair, you probably know from his many interactions with council, and also has recently taken on the role as chairman of Netball New Zealand. So I'd just like to hand to Alistair for a couple of seconds, perhaps to have a quick discussion, and then we'll get into the our presentation. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Mari, and ngā mihi. It's such a pleasure to be here again. We're in a different role. I just want to point out to you that we are here today not to moan, not to ask for anything, but to maybe tell a story about why we believe we're one of the city's best friends, and to just give you a sense of our aspirations for the next 100 years, having inherited this extraordinary gift from one of our most conspicuous, generous citizens, Sir John Logan Campbell, about 100 years ago. In fact, in 2029, only a few years' time, it will mark the anniversary, 100 years since the park first opened. So we have a number of things to explain, and we will take some questions throughout or at the end, but we're here to make your day. We're not here to take your day.
Kia ora, thank you. So we okay to crack on? All right. Turned itself off. So, so with that, we'll progress through the presentation. So as Alistair said, this is our shared aspirations. While we've got a master plan, I think the key thing for us is to share our aspirations with you, because we think there's a great partnership opportunity to work with council. And on that, I acknowledge the Tupuna Manga Authority, who we who have done quite a bit of work with. So just a few key facts. Cornwall Park was donated by Sir John in 1901, opened in 1903. He purchased the land probably in the late 1850s from an Irishman who purchased the land in the 1840s. As you well know, there's a significant history with the site. It's formerly an extensive par site. Currently 172 hectares, so we've got around about 9,000 trees. We plant about 15,000 plants annually, so there's a significant amount of biodiversity, biosecurity work we do. And one of the key points of difference for us is we've got probably one of the only working farms in the middle of a city. So about 70 hectares of Cornwall Park is farmland. We have about 60 to 80 Simmental cattle, who I'm sure many of you have seen. They're very docile, very big animals. And we have about 300 Perrendale sheep, which provide a bit of wool and some lawn mowing facilities for us. We have well over 2 million visitors a year. We probably get more than 1 million cars through the park, so simple math says that there's certainly, if you times that by 2 or 3, you're going to get 2 to 3 million people very, very quickly. We think 2 million's light, but we suspect a lot more than that. So it's a very well-used, well-loved place. It has unique geographical, geological and archaeological formations given the nature of the maunga, and we're grateful to Sir John that he put it aside and protected it in perpetuity for the people of Auckland and New Zealand. A key feature of the park is that we are independent of any funding. We are totally self-funded. Sir John gifted endowment land in 1908, about 140 odd acres of land that we've set aside and developed over the years, which fund the park. So we are totally self-funded and independent. But we think moving forward there's a great opportunity to work particularly with council, given what we can offer. So we're an essential part of Auckland being a positive city. which is a message you, sir, have put forward and we very much support. So how we connect. If you have a look at that picture, I think a picture paints 1,000,000 words, or 1,000, depending on how much money you've got. If you see the dotted line smack in the middle, that's us, the City of Auckland and Cornwall Park. And then you can see some other key, I guess, ecological features or landscapes that surround it. And we're in the middle of that. And what we're finding as the city intensifies, we're becoming not only a safe haven for animals, insects, and as such, but also for people. So we connect significantly to the environment around us. And that is something we definitely want to work on, and it's something we're looking forward to working with Auckland City on. So our master plan. These are our key guiding principles, which we think align with what Auckland Council are looking at, so kaitiakitanga. So that's improving the park's ecological stewardship, and that, I think, fits in quite well with if I hope I can say this, with Auckland City. Tikanga, so doing it right and looking after what we've got. And ngā mahi a whenua, so we are committed to agriculture, food production, although we clearly don't produce enough food to support Auckland. There are opportunities from an educational perspective to teach people about that, because we have a working farm and part of the plan considers marakai and gardens. Te Aki Onamata, supporting cultural heritage and history, and manaakitanga, so that's being able to provide hospitality to people who visit the park, but also visit Auckland and New Zealand. So some of the key projects that constitute our master plan, and a little bit about the master plan. The first master plan was probably developed in the early 1900s, and then in 2014, Cornwall Park undertook a process of developing the master plan, which you see on the page in front of you. So that was developed in 2014. Across the master plan, there's probably about 40 to 44 key projects for the next 100 years, so it's a bit of a guide. And if we were to try and cost that out today, that's probably about 180 million. So there's quite a bit of, there's quite a bit of work that we're looking to do. And so we think a lot of what we do fits in with Auckland, and we think we can work with Auckland City on how we do that. So looking at Cornwall Park, and I know these things are quite interesting to some people, so it's broken down into key areas, 5 key areas. So we've got a sports precinct, and we know that sports grounds in Auckland are becoming pretty rare, so there's about 9 hectares of sports fields there that potentially could be used, and the plan is to develop a sports hub. We have the core precinct, and that's around activation of the core part of the park. So there's a Grand Avenue, there's a Central Plaza. There's also a number of other features like a Cody Grove, barbecue stands, which are all becoming pretty important. So, you know, we've got 3 Cody stands in Cornwall Park. Probably you won't find those anywhere else other than the Waitakere Ranges or further south. We have an agricultural precinct, which we think is really exciting. So part of this is developing gardens and providing education features for people to learn about gardens, but also about farming. Sir John was very keen on the primary industry and was very keen to ensure that we continued that commitment to New Zealand. So part of that is creating, I guess, a working farm depot, gardens where people can come and visit and see how our primary industry, hort and ag, work. And then we have the Onehunga precinct, which is sort of to the south, and that's engaging with our local community. So part of that is creating walkways around the park so people can enjoy what we're doing. And then park-wide projects, one we're looking at the moment and partnering with interested parties, is about creating a walk around the park, but it's more than a walk. One of the things we want to try and do is reintroduce lost species to Cornwall Park, to the centre of the city. And as you all know, once you do that, biosecurity, biodiversity increases significantly. And as you can see from the previous slide, we can become a central connecting point for Auckland and the other areas. So the next 1 to 5 years, in the short term, unifying the park, so that's creating that walk we talked about, improving movement through the park. Like I said before, we have about 1 million cars going through the park. We probably want to reduce that and give more space to people. We have about 6 hectares of tar seal running through the park, so we think walking, pedestrian, cycling could be a better way to do that. Strengthening biodiversity. So as I said, we've got 3 Cody groves, creating boardwalks through those groves so people can enjoy them. Designing precincts around the park, so linking various aspects of the park. And park as a platform, and this is where we think we can offer a lot of value working with Auckland Council and our local communities as well. We know green spaces are very rare and becoming more rare in Auckland, and we have 172 hectares of green space that we would like to work with Council on about how we could be a better park for Auckland and New Zealand. And park as a classroom, teaching, mātauranga, knowledge about not only New Zealand and Auckland today, but what it was like pre-European and even pre-people. So these are the kinds of things that Cornwall Park offers a window into. So a really great educational opportunity. So we think our master plan aligns very closely with the Auckland Plan 2050, your 6 key outcomes, belonging and participation, so that Aucklanders feel connected. What better way to do that than through a place like Cornwall Park? Māori identity and well-being. So it is a key point of difference for Aotearoa, New Zealand, our Māori heritage, so celebrating that. Homes and places, people like their backyards, and as we intensify, Cornwall Park has the ability to provide the backyard for Auckland. We know that Auckland Centre is the heart of Auckland. We think we're the soul of Auckland, so we can offer that perspective. Transport and access, we do get a lot of transport around Cornwall Park, so being able to fit into the transport plan for Auckland is critical. Environment and cultural heritage. Auckland's natural environment and heritage are really critical, and this clearly is something that we as Cornwall Park would like to work with Auckland Council on. We think we can offer significant value in that regard. And opportunity and prosperity. Auckland is benefiting from a strong, inclusive and sustainable economy. We think there are benefits, and we think there's things that we can do to support that also. So Cornwall Park fitting into the landscape of Auckland City as one of the greatest cities in the world. And so there it is. It's the green space down in front of Acacia Lodge, looking away. Acacia Lodge, of course, is Sir John's house that he built when he came to Auckland back in the 1840s. So we've got it sitting just behind that, and so that's a nice view down onto the front lawn, down towards Green Lane West.
And if I might add, if I can add one fun fact about Acacia Lodge, that beautiful house. If anybody's been to Gilt Restaurant, just not too far behind us, that is exactly where the house was when it was first established, and then it was lifted, I think, in the 1920s and brought to the park, and is now it's listed. It's a very significant historic place, and we keep a very close eye on it when we have wind events because it's not very heavy. Very happy to have questions.
Well, that was very good. Thank you very much. I'll move that, and the Deputy Mayor will second receiving that. But in the meantime, have anyone got any questions of that delightful presentation?
Thank you very much. It's lovely to positively start the day with such an amazing presentation. You definitely are, in my opinion, one of the jewels in our city's crown. I've got a couple of questions. My first is, do you see Cornwall Park having an opportunity as an event space, an outdoor event space, or is that something that you think isn't within your mandate, you'd rather just leave it for what it is?
Short answer is yes, but done carefully. Sir John's gift describes a whole bunch of things that he thinks the park could be used for, and it does include public entertainment and education and art and enjoyment. So yes, and it already is an event space. I mean, people can hold weddings there. We're increasingly using it as a place where people can shoot digital content because it's just such a beautiful backdrop. We are toying with proposals for concerts and other types of public entertainment, but we are very mindful of our environmental obligations to the park itself, and very intense high traffic events will do damage to not just the parkland, but actually to the ecological environment as well. we have an enormous number of birds and invertebrates. One of the most tricky times is to do something incredibly noisy during their breeding season. It absolutely disrupts them. So we're balancing all of these things because there is a lot of demand for this. But yes, we will cautiously look at these things, and we hope to do some stuff in the near future.
And my second, which leads me very nicely to my second question, which is, you talked about the fact, I think it was 6,000, how many kilometres of asphalt do you have?
We've roughly probably got around 6 hectares
Okay.
of tar seal, roughly.
Right. So if there was to be a reduction, I suppose my question is, what are you doing to lobby Auckland Transport about better public transport options as a destination? Because, the main Green Lane Road, I'm not sure how that works for public transport. So what I'm saying is, if people wanted to get there by public transport, how difficult is it vis-a-vis taking a family by car?
It's very easy if you take the train. You can get off, and it's just a 5-minute walk. There are good bus links, but we think they could be improved. In the excuse me, in the medium term, we want to probably decar the park, or at least reduce the amount of traffic that goes through it. And I'm not sure if you saw on that earlier map, but from the park entrance actually begins on Manukau Road with the crescent that we have just recently replanted and restored Sir John's statue. But Puriri Drive, which comes past St Cuthbert's, is actually parkland. It's a private road, and people use it as a through road to cut through the park. So we've already stopped northern traffic coming through the park, but you can go south carefully on one lane. Over time, we're going to look to mitigate that. One of the interesting consequences that we're also managing is that if you stop or reduce car traffic in the park, it then becomes an unbelievably attractive place for cyclists to run pelotons through because it's all tar sealed. So you create one solution to a problem and you open up another thing that we've got to work on. But over time, we would like, in our master plan dream, we would like to have a place where people can park possibly on the other side of Green Lane or maybe near the hospital, and we would use electronic shuttles to take people with disabilities through the park or golf carts to take people around, but otherwise to increase the sense of pedestrian and gentle human traffic rather than any other form of transportation. And that originally was Sir John's dream. Puriri Drive was a carriageway. People would come through in carriages to come up to ultimately to the tihi, and it's now a bit of a racetrack.
Finally, sorry, I don't want to monopolise. You didn't talk about how you financially, sustainably pay for what is needed. So can you just give a brief outline of how you are funded?
Sure. We fund ourselves through income on the assets that we have on the endowment land that Sir John left for the city. So we have 3 broad classes. There's residential housing, some of which is on ground lease, and that is a point of pain for some people as we do various reviews only every 21 years against the valuation of the land, which constantly goes up. We own quite a lot of the houses ourselves and run them as a rental portfolio. We also have the showgrounds and the show buildings, and we have leased those, and they're running as a pretty effective commercial concern. And St Cuthbert's is on our land, is on a substantial part of our land, and so they also pay ground rent to us. We get rental from the cafe and the bistro, and we are looking increasingly at the possibility of donor pathways as well. I don't think members of the public realise that it's not only free, but they pay nothing. It all comes from our activities.
That was what I was trying to say. The ratepayers of Auckland actually don't contribute at all.
We don't take any ratepayer money. We're not asking for that. We'd love to be a platform for increased planting at the park. One of our crazy dreams at the moment is to try to imagine the 50 lost species from Tamaki that have retreated or gone and that were endemic before urbanisation. Could we start to bring them back into the park? Could this become a reference and a memory site for what was, as well as what it could be? So these are things we're working on.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for what you do for our city. Most grateful.
Thank you. Councillor Philippine, please.
Atamare he mana, good morning, Chair. Atamare ngā kai kaunihira me ngā kaimahi o te kaunihira to the councillors. I acknowledge you as well as the workers here. A tēnā koutou katoa to Cornwall Park Trust. I've only got, well, firstly, Alistair, congratulations on both the roles, including netball. I look forward to working with you, as we did when you were the chair of Creative New Zealand. So just mihi to you. To you, Nirupa, good to see you. Congratulations to you and your husband on your daughter. So ngā mihi ki a koe. Murray, ngā mihi ki a koe moto mahi to you. And it's good to see you. My question is, currently, how many fields do you have that is set aside for rugby, rugby league, and obviously you've got a platform for cricket as well? So now, how many do you have?
So, thank you, Matua, for that question. So we, as my chair Alistair mentioned before, along Puriri Drive, we've got about 8 to 9, and I can get the exact figures to you, but there's about 8 or 9 hectares of land there that's set aside for rugby and rugby league. That's the oval one. And then there's a bunch of land on Cornwall Park itself that we have for the Cornwall Park Cricket Club. So that's on the other side of Green Lane West, just adjacent to the hospital. So we've got those fields, and in addition to that, there's the Auckland Bowling Club, which is just up towards the Market Road end of Puriri. We also have the tennis club, which is next to the primary school. So to answer your question, there's quite a significant amount of sports fields available for use across a broad range of sporting codes.
Kia ora, just one more pātai he mana, and that is your 100-year master plan. You've got how many moving forward would you end up having? You've got all the ones you've just told us moving forward, and I look forward to the conversation that some of the councillors here have already had with you, Murray, and look forward to having that meeting with you as well, Alistair, and who you wish to have moving forward. How many fields, and with the sports you've just identified, will still be there leading into your 100-year plan? Kia ora.
Yeah, ngā mihi kia koe, e te matu moto pātai kia. So that's a very good question. So the 100-year master plan envisages, as you can see at the top of that, a sports-type precinct. So, you know, it'd be difficult for me to say, or us to say in 50 years' time, what's going to be the predominant sport for New Zealand. So the key thing is there's a concept to have sporting facility, recreational facilities. I think the main thing for us is, if I can say this, is actually working with yourselves, Matua, around, well, what does that look like? We've got green space. What's the best way to use it moving forward? Because this is a 50 to 100-year master plan. So at the moment, we've sort of nominally said, you can see there's 3 fields for the oval ball, there's a cricket oval, and there's a couple of other playing fields, but that's just a concept only. And so I'd like to think that we can work with council and interested stakeholders to see what they could look like for the future.
And just adding to that, Councillor, the reason we don't have a precise number is because we've currently got a patchwork of things all over the park. And what we're trying to do with this master plan is create zones where we would say around Puriri Drive, that's where sport's going to be concentrated. We could potentially free up some land for parking just off Green Lane so that we can answer Councillor Simpson's questions about where people can park and have a different entry into the park. The master plan is about alignment. It's about not doing regrettable things that get in front of what you might concentrate over time. I just want to also acknowledge Nirupa here, who is known to many of you. She's just joined us as an associate trustee. So under the terms of the trust, under Sir John Logan Campbell's actual deed, there can only be 4 trustees at any one time. It's a self-perpetuating trust. I'm only number 27 in the entire 100 years of this gift. And Adrian Young-Cooper, whom you know, has stepped out of being the chair. She's still on the trust. We still have Keith Smith, we've got Aaron Snodgrass, but we've created 3 associate roles so that we can bring more diversity and more strategic thinking into the board, and Nirupa's a key part of that. We have John Coop, whom some of you will know, Managing Director of Warren and Marnie, and we also have James Fletcher, who again some of you will know. So we're at a stage of renewal and rethinking a lot of these things, and I just wanted to recognise you, Nerupa.
Tēnā koutou. Look forward, Murray, to that meeting with you, Alistair, and whoever, with other councillors. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe,
Thank you for that. Councillor Ferry, please.
Well, kia ora, thanks very much. I go to Cornwall Park usually a few times a month, even though it's a little bit away from home. Particularly the grotto or secret garden for rock hiding and hunting with one of my kids. I had a couple of questions. One was just around the possibility to work with us around some stormwater management stuff, particularly on the eastern side of the park, because there are some issues for properties downstream from you, off endowment land, and that could be an opportunity there, particularly around some of the ecological stuff around wetlands and things. So is that something that you've been thinking about at all?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Yes, it absolutely is something we've been thinking about more so recently since 2022 and
Yeah.
so yeah, it is something that's top of mind for us. We're conscious of that. So I think in the context of the discussion we just previously had, and part of the reason for being here today is to work more closely with Te Kaunihira.
Great. I'll be keen to follow that up.
Kia ora.
And the other thing is the mention the Deputy Mayor brought up of transport links. So there was recently a consulted on proposal from Auckland Transport around Green Lane West. And so have you had any interaction with that yet? Because that would potentially help a lot with the bus routes in particular, and also some of the cycling and pedestrian and infrastructure. But I know that they've sort of gone, oh, we haven't quite got the proposal right yet, so they're sort of having another look at it. Have they talked to you directly about it at all?
Yes. We've actually taken quite a bit of advice on it from our planners, Buffer School, looked at it as part of our own, what we call the MOVE project, which is about our own traffic management, and we have made a submission, I think, the last week. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
And just on water, sorry, Councillor, I just wanted to say also that probably it's not well known that we also house an enormous reservoir. And just near the archery club, underground is, I think, the largest water care city reservoir. And of course, that creates a great height for water to travel through. So we have a really good relationship with water care as well over all of that.
Right. Yes, no, and I was aware of the reservoir because it showed up on the stuff you sent ahead, but I hadn't known about it before that, so well done. And that's good to hear that you have a relationship with Watercare for it, and good to hear that you're working with Auckland Transport on that proposal. I think it will be really key to get more people there by non-car means, because I think the parking is always at capacity. And really the solution to that is not more parking, it's other modes. So yeah, good to hear working on that. Thank you.
Sorry, just on that, I just want to acknowledge the team at Auckland Transport. They've been fantastic. Kia ora.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Fletcher, please.
Oh, thank you. In a way, the challenges that you face are almost like running a little mini city within a city, and yet there's no cost to the ratepayers. And I always think that is just such a marvellous act of philanthropy, one, on an international scale that we all get to appreciate, but probably take for granted from time to time. I'm reassured because I'm worried about the disability community. So your observations that you will make provision for that is something that's really important to me. That while you're wanting to decrease the tar seal in the place, you are going to make provision for those, so everybody, in an inclusive way, can enjoy it. My question in part has been asked by the Deputy Mayor, but it is, ongoing sustainable funding must be a huge challenge for you. And I know at times it's become controversial when you have sought with the leases and so forth. Do you want to comment on that and how you go about interacting with the wider public to create that awareness and understanding?
I suspect the wider public doesn't actually, in terms of our main visitors, realise just what our commercial model is. We do have, as I said, a very diverse range of assets that we derive income from. We run on the smell of an oily rag, actually, and every time we approach a commercial question, we have one objective in mind, and that is the park. Everything we do is for the park. And Sir John's gift of endowment land was very, very clear. It needed to create enough commercial return that the park could be run for free for all New Zealanders and all other visitors. There will be points of inflection around this. We, on a basic return on actual value, we actually we make very little, but we have to make money in order to run the park, which has increasing costs and issues associated with it. It's really interesting. We got canned in the media a few months ago for closing the park because of an orange wind warning, and some commentators said we're just doing a nanny thing and people should be able to walk in the park and so on. An enormous makarapa fell and wiped out the archery club rooms. People would have died if we had not done that. And we now are facing even costs around our tree management, because trees have a natural life. Some of them are over 100 years old, some of them have to go. And so there are constantly increasing costs, but I can assure you that every time we do something in our commercial estate with leaseholders, with our rental properties, it is with one objective, it's to run the park.
And my second question is to Murray, who is one of the great treasures you have. To what degree have you've mentioned it in your presentation to us this morning, but within the master plan, the weighting that you have put on the working farm and how not just Aucklanders but New Zealanders can better understand the farming history of this country. Can you give me a little better understanding? You're moving towards having different areas, for different purposes, but how does the farm then integrate with it all? And how, Murray, is that just such a fundamental part of the operations of the park?
Well, ka mihi nui kia koe e whae moto calling me a treasure, that's very kind of you. But it's a very good question. And so right from a bit of history, right from the get-go, Sir John recognised, and he's quite a far-sightful gentleman, that the primary industry was critical to New Zealand. So that is embedded in what we do. And latterly, as we've researched other great parks around the world, we've come to realise we are the only park, we think, in the environment we're in, that has a working farm. So with those two things in mind, to your point, ma'am, it is absolutely critical for us to keep it. And then if you consider that a big chunk of our national GDP is derived from our primary industry, we think we've got a part to play in terms of educating New Zealanders around the primary industry. And subjectively, as you well know, we're finding that more and more people, when we were growing up as kids, we'd go and play on the farm, go and play in the bush. It doesn't happen these days. And so it's really heartwarming to see families come and being able to engage with a working farm in the middle of a city. So across those 3 or 4 things, ma'am, if I hope I'm giving you some comfort here, we believe it's absolutely critical to Cornwall Park, not only to honour Sir John's commitment to New Zealand, but equally the future of New Zealand. So, I mean, we don't see it. It's featured into our 100-year master plan. We don't see it going anywhere in the next 100 years, and in fact, we will look to reinforce its position within Cornwall Park.
I'm greatly assured by that. Thank you.
Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Foley, please.
Kia ora, thanks, Chair, and I just want to start by adding my voice in tautoko what others have said, and thank you so much for the work that you do and continue to do in providing a beautiful sanctuary, the lungs of Auckland, as you put it in your report, that we can all enjoy for free. And I don't know if many people, as you say, do understand that it is fully funded and not funded by ratepayers. So kia ora for that, and thank you so much. Some of my question has already been asked and answered by others. But what I was keen to hear from you is, what can we do as council to help you in your work going forward? What are some of the top sort of asks that you have? And I appreciate that you're not asking us for funding, but what are the things that we can do as council to support you? Kia ora.
I can honestly say that at the moment, nothing. But I think we should start working together where our interests overlap. That is why we're here today. As we start to, I mean, we really respect and obviously will be subject to the AUP. And however Plan Change 120 lands, that will affect the estate around the park that has our housing on it. So we do have an interest in that. We want to understand about the intensification of Green Lane and of those areas. And we, even within this master plan, we have things like view shafts that are built in so that you can be on the maunga and see as many other maunga as you can. So we do look to those sorts of things, but we will just be a conscientious citizen and contribute in the normal way. I do think, and I just want to pick up your point, Councillor Fletcher, about disabilities, I do think it's really important to know that when we do things like, as Murray was pointing out, design a new boundary walk, it's because we want to see the park as very porous. Entries and exits should be everywhere for everybody. We'll be designing pathways that are absolutely graded for people with disabilities. We'll be extending the ngahere, the forest, all the way to the edge, if we can, and starting to green up the border. So these are things that I think we can work on together. We absolutely want to have a great relationship with your parks team as well, because we don't want to live in isolation. I know that there are incredible opportunities around various parks, including Western Springs and Cornwall Park, to make it really intensely nature positive. And we just see ourselves as a big part of your wider responsibilities too.
Kia ora, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Hills, please.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Thank you for the work. I have just a few comments. Questions, sorry. The first one, just I see you're trying to bring back the understory and more biodiversity to the park. Do the residents on the outside, whether they're part of the park or not, are they into being a buffer or helping with the pest control, or do you have any kind of relationship with them on that sort of level?
Tēnā koe, ka mihi nui kia koe. So we do have very limited interaction. You're talking about biosecurity, biodiversity. There are interested groups around, for example, that are engaged in looking after the bird life and things like that. So, but it's certainly an area that we think we'd like to look into a bit better. Yeah.
Awesome. We've got some good examples on the shore with Takarunga and Mangawika that the communities around there are creating some pretty amazing volunteer work.
Yeah.
Question on the buses. So the 65 from Point Chev to GI, and I think the 321 from the city to Otahuhu go right past, but they stop at the hospital,
Yeah.
but there's no footpath to get to the walkway. Could we be, we're about to have Auckland Transport come into council, or it's already happened kind of. Would it be good to work with you on either getting another stop before Pahutakawa Road, or trying to get the footpath in? I know there's a good plan for the cycleways and stuff out at the moment, but it still didn't include a footpath on that side, which is, because that would seem to create a bigger possibility.
Yeah, so that's a great question. As our chair said, we've worked with BOFA to come up with an alternative plan to one that's been put up by Auckland Transport. So we'd like to, and we haven't yet had a follow-up discussion with them, but we certainly want to work with your team on how we can look at pedestrian movement, cycle movement. So we think there's some opportunities to work there on that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think the median, in my opinion, seems like a bit of a waste if you can add footpath on the other side.
Absolutely,
but, the other question was, I used to work at Green Lane Hospital a long time ago, and so I knew how to get to the park, but it's back then, and it might have changed, it never seemed that legible or easy if you're, waiting for family at a clinic, or you're visiting, how you would get into the park. Have you got a good relationship with the DHB and the clinical centre to actually connect better to the park? Because it doesn't look like it's that easy on Google Maps still.
Yeah, no, so another, and that's another very good question. So it's all part of working on the transport plan is to engage with the bodies around the park to see what we can do better. Absolutely.
And I think just to that point, councillor, you know, if you just look at how rapidly Auckland has urbanised around the park since it was designed, things that we confront now, like those incredibly beautiful historic stone gates, those pillars, they're very narrow to drive through. They're very hard to see pedestrians on either side. We're actually trying to work out how to mitigate those at the moment because the world has changed. And when they were set up, they weren't contemplating 2.2 million visitors a year. By the way, 47% of our visitors, like you, Councillor Ferry, come at least once a week. It is that sticky.
Okay, Councillor Bartley.
Thank you very much for what you do. I think the beauty of Cornwall Park is the tranquility. And so I wouldn't be wanting to see major events there. That's the whole reason why I come there, is for peace. And I also think Cornwall Park has a lot of emotional connection for a lot of people. When my auntie got diagnosed with cancer, we went to Cornwall Park. The last family photo my family took before my mum died, Cornwall Park. Had my dog's 13th birthday, Cornwall Park. So I love Cornwall Park and I don't want to see it change. So my question is, I suppose, is there any talk of changing from what you are? Because if I take a note out of Bridget Jones' diary, I like you just as you are. I don't want to see any change. So what are you looking to change?
We want to become more parky. We want more trees, more people, more biodiversity. We want people to come and use it as they do for all of their social reasons. And it is extraordinary. You talk about Green Lane Hospital. We know that there is an area in the Olive Grove where people have come to grieve, have come to terms with the diagnosis, have come to just take a beat while they go and visit somebody who's unwell. And there are zones in the park that have particular emotional memory for all sorts of reasons that we can't see, but our visitors do. So that sacred nature of the park, as Murray started to use this phrase, and we as a trust love it, about it being the soul of Auckland, we think is really resonant. And I assure you that any activities that we do there will never compromise that tranquility or the true sense of what people love about the park.
Okay, we've got to the end of that, but it is an important place. Every Tuesday for all those years I played for Te Papa, we had to run up to the top of the blooming mountain. If you do that every Tuesday, you should get fed up with it after a while. I've got a question though, because the Auckland Showgrounds is part of what you own, and it's sort of not shown in those nice pictures. And the ring inside Campbell Crescent is shown in those, and I don't think you own that, and maybe I've got that wrong.
We do have the Auckland Showgrounds. I'm not sure, Murray, on that map. So when the shows boards went into liquidation about 5 years ago, they disclaimed the lease. It came back to us. So we have put actually some former shows board employees in there to run them, and we have a rent arrangement with them. We have a turnover rent arrangement, and if they are very successful, and we don't see any immediate change to that activity.
Well, they are helping to fund you, so it's just a commercial landlord arrangement.
That's correct.
And what about the bit inside Campbell Crescent? Is that yours or ours?
Which bit is that? Sorry.
Campbell, you're talking about...
There's a half, there's a semicircle.
It's ours.
That's ours.
Yeah.
That actual Crescent Park is ours.
Okay, because I'm just looking at the bit that's got green and yellow and it doesn't show there, so perhaps...
Right. You might have a slightly different map to what we're looking at. Yeah, no, that belongs to the park. That's parkland.
Okay, because on that map there, I read maps that annoys everybody, and then you've got the bit with the mountain on top of it, the summit is in white as if that's different from the green bit. What is that? What
So
signifies?
the actual maunga is, it's under the management of the Tupuna Maunga Authority.
Okay.
And we have a very close relationship with them. The only one bit of the maunga that we control is the actual obelisk and Sir John's grave. So right
Oh,
on
I
the
see a
tihi,
little
where
green bit in the middle
rests.
there.
Yeah, that
that's-
tiny bit is where he's resting.
Suitably complicated, yes. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got on very well with the TMA and with Murray in the seat. I think our relationships with the TMA and Ngāti Whātua
I'm
and
sure you
other
do.
interested parties are better than ever.
Councillor Lee has ended with a late question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a question as such to follow up from the excellent questions from colleagues and yourself. I just want to endorse the comments of the Deputy Mayor when she referred to Cornwall Park as a jewel in the crown. And that's not only the land as the physical embodiment of Sir John's vision and legacy, but yourselves, the people who are carrying on his mission. You're all part of that jewel in the crown, so thank you. And one of the I think we should always remember that there was a certain amount of sacrifice for Sir John to make over such a large area of land that he owned into common ownership as such. There were sacrifices with his family and everything else, but he had a vision and the absolute value of open space, and he also had a belief, a passionate belief in the city of Auckland and its people and for future Aucklanders. And one of the members here asked a very thoughtful question: how can we help the work of the Trust and its vision? And I would take the liberty of responding to it myself by saying, carrying on our own mission, following the inspiration of Sir John, and making available open space and parkland for future generations of Aucklanders, just as we have been the fortunate recipient of the generosity and vision of previous generations, people like Sir John Logan Campbell, and, if you will, the founders of our regional parks network, which you had up on the map. That's how I think we can help you and work closely with you. So thank you very much for what you've done and are doing for Auckland.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. If I make one minor comment, at various times the Trust has included councillors and even a mayor of Auckland. In the 1930s, one of the mayors, and I forget his name, I do apologise, was on the Trust and personally planted most of the Pūtakawa and several of the oaks in Twin Oak Drive. So I'm not inviting you to do that, Mayor Brown, but there have been times where the connection has actually been even very close and active, and I just hope this relationship can grow.
Okay, it's been moved, and thank you very much for having a good discussion and a pleasant start to the day. And it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour of receiving that excellent 100-year plan, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, and carried. Thank you very much, including Sarah said that and put a big thumb up. Okay, we are moving on. Under the local body input,